who's the father of Ty Woods, who is one of the murdered men, that the American government would arrest the YouTube filmmaker. And that's a quote, a Hillary Clinton quote, that the American government would arrest the YouTube filmmaker. This is an American filmmaker who was exercising his freedom of speech and his freedom of press. And Hillary Clinton, by her own documented, printed words, say free speech and freedom of the press will get you arrested if the government doesn't like what you said. So here's the real question. Can America stop this style of terror attack from coming here? Can you folks in Australia stop it from coming there? What about you folks in the UK? There's numerous reports that I don't have time to cover in this program that say this attack in the UK is imminent. It's coming and you know it. In an exclusive interview with WND, the author of Stop the Islamization of America, A Practical Guide to the Resistance, painted a dire picture of this Western future. Even after the most devastating terror attack in French history, it's been judged that no European nations are doing much of anything against the Islamization right now. The attacks were sparked by caricatures of the Islamic prophet, Muhammad, deemed offensive by Muslims and by the Quran that I just read you. As WND has reported, Islamic nations have been trying for years to impose a worldwide prohibition of criticism of their religion and their prophet through the United Nations. With so many people so deeply invested in the goal of a global ban on criticism of Islam, they say the number of the satirist at the French magazine, Charlie Hebdo, will not halt the drive to end free speech. There's absolutely no evidence that they're backing away from efforts to impose hate speech laws. In fact, just earlier this week, a Canadian imam called for the criminalization of satirical cartoons of religious leaders. Author of the book, Geller, declares in her book that the gravest threat that Islamization poses is the restriction of the freedom of speech. While European countries and Canada already have laws against criticism of Islam under the guise of hate speech, President Obama has shown a willingness for a long time, for years, to expand these kind of laws in the United States and other nations around the world. According to Professor Jonathan Turley of George Washington University, the Obama administration shockingly reported Muslim allies trying to establish a new international blasphemy standard all the way back in 2009. Following the terrorist attacks on an American facility in Libya and the murder of the American ambassador on September 11, President Obama intoned that the U.S. rejects efforts to denigrate the religious beliefs of others. As WND reported only 2 weeks later, President Obama told the United Nations General Assembly again that the future must not belong to those who slander the Prophet of Islam. And after the latest attack in Paris, President Obama carefully, very carefully, tailored his speech so as not to use the words Islam, radical Islam, Muslim, jihad, or Sharia when he condemned the shootings. And WND reported that the United Nations followed President Obama's lead and refused to link the attacks to Islam. We're being warned. Free speech restrictions are only a matter of time in the United States if things don't change. Radical Muslims will succeed in posing them here because the mainstream media is already doing their bidding. Americans haven't yet seen that kind of street-level Islamic terrorism or widespread political intimidation that exists in France. But the only significant difference is the Muslim population in France is so much bigger than the population in the U.S. There may not remain true for much longer. As a recent study from the Center for Immigration Studies shows, the immigration from Islamic nations has dramatically increased under Obama's time in office, such as immigration from Europe and Israel has declined. A 2011 study from the Pew Research Center shows that Muslim population in the United States is expected to more than double over the next 2 decades. The larger Islamic population will add new strength and resources to this already powerful Muslim lobby here in the United States. In Geller's book, Stop the Islamization of America, contains a detailed history of the background, the the funding and the activities of these mainstream Muslim groups operating in the United States, including the Council of American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, the Muslim Students Association, and the Muslim Brotherhood. They're all here, they're all active, and they're all putting their fingers in our government. Keller believes these and other Islamic organizations have a lot to answer for the aftermath of the attacks. Instead of forthrightly condemning the murders, Keller charges they're doing what they've always done, deflecting attention away from the attacks to a fictional Islamophobic backlash, and defaming and discrediting anyone and everyone who stands up and opposes jihad terror. Well, in the aftermath of these attacks, American government officials told reporters that eliminating the threat is impossible and that the potential Paris-style attacks in the United States is the new normal. Is that acceptable to you? It's not acceptable to me. In contrast, Keller has recommendations about what needs to be done in the United States to defend itself from this kind of Islamic terrorism. She said we should monitor the mosques and demand that Muslim groups renounce the aspects of Islam and Sharia that are violent and supremacistic in all conflicts in Western principles of freedom and human rights. This has to be backed up by honest, transparent, and inspectable program teachings young Muslims to reject the understanding of Islam. And the French government should do the same. Keller is largely pessimistic about the ability of European nations to respond to this terrorist threat. After all, she says, there were several jihad attacks in France in the last few weeks, all of which were dismissed by French authorities as manifestations of mental illness, where it seems that mental illness is becoming an epidemic in France. One possible exception is the rise of Marine Le Pen's National Front. This is described as far right in the mainstream media. The National Front takes a strong stand against immigration and is perceived as an opponent of Islamization. Keller says that the National Front may benefit from these attacks if they can articulate to the French people what the jihad threat is and why it has to be combated. It must also effectively counter the leftist smear that all opposition to jihad terror is racism. Racism! As she told WND, we're the soldiers in this war to defend freedom. The real fight for freedom isn't a military struggle. It's a war to defend our free societies. All of us must fight in this war, or we will certainly lose. And you know, how have countries won wars in the past? You win a war by eliminating your enemy's desire to fight. You win their hearts and minds to not fight anymore, where they say, we're done, we're not doing this anymore. We'll take a short break. I'll be right back after this break.
You know, seems these days that not a single one of us steps on a train, boards an airplane, attends a concert or a sporting event and doesn't have at least a fleeting concern that terror could strike. The reality of the post 9/11 world is that we're at war and we are a target. We all live with some level of uncertainty and fear. It's easy to lose sight of an issue that defines our generation, the need to stop terrorism in our time. Our president apologizes for America, and he's made it clear that the era of American exceptionalism is over. He campaigned on closing Guantanamo and trying terrorists in civilian court. On his second day in office, he stopped enhanced interrogation and he closed down the black sites. You know, where we got the intel that ultimately led us to bin Laden. He has all but abandoned Israel despite the fact that Iran is the world's leading sponsor of terror that openly calls for the annihilation of Israel. All while Iran develops a nuclear bomb that they recently announced could be delivered to U.S. targets via missiles developed during Obama's presidency, while he does nothing but talk. The question for every American is simply, are we safer? AreWeSafer.com provides you with the facts and the potential consequences of these failed policies so that you can make informed decisions. I mean, let's face it. If things don't change, everything will change. And we all hope that day never comes.
Hi folks, have you noticed the federal government and police departments are using drones for everything? Drones are expensive. They're hard to fly. It can take up to a week just to learn to make a drone hover. Not anymore. There's a new generation of drones that are not only affordable but very easy to fly. Now you can have your own personal drone, anything from a micro mini that'll fit in the palm of your hand, right up to a full-scale model, 10 inches in diameter like the model I have, the V949 Pro. Comes with a 6-axis 4-rotor blade and an HD 2.4 camera mounted on the bottom. These drones are made of a space-age polymer. They're durable, and don't worry about crashing your drone. Replacement blades for this drone from the website are only $1.80 for a pack of 4. That's right, I said $1.80 for a pack of 4 replacement blades. You can also get an extra long life battery. This battery allows you up to a half hour of fly time with a maximum speed of 40 miles an hour. Have your own personal drone, and you can get all of this for under $70. If you go to the website, wdeanshook.com, and click on the banner on the webpage, you can get from 7 to 22% off your personal drone. It's shipped as a kit. You can be up and flying your own personal drone with an HD camera within a half hour. Come to the webpage, wdeanshook.com. Click on that banner and get your discount today. wdeanshook.com.
GoDaddy offers everything you need to make a name for yourself on the web, from domain names and website builders to complete e-commerce solutions. We've earned our place as the world's #1 accredited domain registrar by delivering world-class products at competitive prices and support them with industry-best services delivered 24/7, 365. We're proud to serve our customers from locations around the world. Sign up now at wdeanshook.com and get your domain name as low as $5.99 a year. Sign up now at wdeanshook.com. Go, Daddy. Go, Daddy.
When you download the iHeartRadio app and put the W.D. and Shook Show on your list of stations, you will prove to the world that you're a little bit smarter than everyone else. The W.D. and Shook Show, your connection to the signs of the times.
There is a sense in the world. There's a sense among believers. There's a sense among unbelievers. There's a sense among all peoples that things are unhinged. The Middle East is unhinged with uprisings, revolutions, and where's this heading? How are followers of Jesus to relate to all of these things? How do they relate to biblical prophecy? America is in spiritual, moral crisis. Values are changing, and so rapidly, that have not happened in the history of man. How are level-headed, responsible Christians to relate to the testimony of the biblical prophets and the unfolding of chaos throughout the world? Not just believers are wondering, is this a sign of the end?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. These are the stakes. We either stand up to supporters of terrorism, or we and our allies risk losing the freedom we cherish. We must not let the jihadist government of Iran get a nuclear bomb. President Obama has had opportunity to stop them, but he's failing. Join with us, and let's secure America now.
And thank you for allowing me that break. I appreciate